we are queued up against Fiora Shen. Looks like folks still taking it for a whirl. For today's video, I wanted to revisit a list that I had shared during Croc Week. This is the updated version of Renekton and Sejuani, and I just personally really enjoy playing this list. I like to play proactive lists, but this one also lets you play really big bodies while being proactive, and this is not a surprising list. You probably run into it on the ladder already, or at least versions of it, so I'm going to kind of speed through the list so that we can get to the games today, but let's dive right in. I'm running 3 copies of Exhaust because this helps you dictate trades, and it also can let you dictate damage to the Nexus at times, because if you got a big Overwhelm unit, making sure that it goes over top of something with 1 or 2 health can be a really big deal. Omen Hawk is here as just early game fodder while also buffing your other units that have Overwhelm. Chronomancer is to help smooth out your draws and give you something on round 2 potentially. Along with Ruthless Raider, this is like your cheap Overwhelm unit. This is also a great unit to hit off of Omen Hawk. Sometimes that works out. It doesn't happen often, but it's great. I'm running 3 copies of Ruinous Path. Because you have such big bodies, you tend to slay things, like even when your units are trading. This gives you something to sink your extra mana into. It gives you a source of direct damage. I've closed out some games with this. It's also a source of card draw, so I threw it in to test it. So far, I've really liked its performance. It's not like amazing, but I think that it has some merit in a list like this. So I'm running 3 copies of Ruinous Path currently. Troll Chant, this is just a great combat trick. It's fantastic. This is to Freljord what Sharpsight is to Demacia. If you're playing a unit-based list in those regions, you probably are including it. Trapper is just a great, again, early game drop, because this list is all about big bodies, right? So this is a great early game drop that gives you cheap big bodies for later, gives you that nice 5/5 while also allowing you to trade early on. Your big worry with a list like this is like losing to aggro going underneath you. So you need bodies like this and Chronomancer and even to some extent Hawk to buy you time until your big boys come online, and that usually starts around turn 4. So speaking of turn 4, we've got 3 copies of Bakai Sandspinner. This is really just about dictating trades kind of the same way that Exhaust is, while also still being threatening. It trades very well. This is also something that usually triggers Ruinous Path for you. This does not have Overwhelm, but it's still a great unit. We've got Renekton, part of the deck. Overwhelm, just a nice beefy croc. I run a 1 of Right in Negation. I'd love to try to fit in a second one, but I don't know at the expense of what. But this has absolutely won me games with some blowout potential. Ruin Runner is outstanding. It's got Overwhelm. It's got Spell Shield. It's all the things you want. Sejuani, Overwhelm, Vulnerable, all the tools, again, that you want. Works really well in conjunction with Renekton. You don't really level her up very often, and even when you do, you don't have good ways to take advantage of her. Like the Overwhelm helps as far as like making your other units not die to trades, but this isn't like a Sejuani Teemo list, for example. 3 copies of Yeti. This is the 7-drop that you hope is a 4-drop, because if you have it in your opening hand, then by the time turn 4 rolls around, you can play a 5/5 Overwhelm for 4. And even if that's available, sometimes you skip doing that in favor of other plays, and then they become cheaper, and you can have some amazing plays where you might play, 1 or 2 really cheap Ancient Yetis along with a Yeti made from Trapper all in one turn, and suddenly you've just got a board full of 5/5s. So Yeti, and then Battle Fury is your big finisher. You've got all these Overwhelm units, so it helps push damage. On something like Ruin Runner, it's a godsend, because a lot of times with the Spell Shield, it means this is going to find its way home. And yeah, that's the list. So we're going to dive into some games. As always, deck code will be in the video description, and let's see the action. So this might be a nightmare. I was just talking about how against aggro decks, your entire goal is to make sure they don't go underneath you. I think this goes back to, we need earlier bodies. Discard aggro is arguably like the fastest opener in the game. Like I've had absurd openers where you basically get people down to like 1 health by turn 3. Them passing there is actually a really good sign for us. Okay, maybe they've got a clunky hand. We'll take it, because this was not a great start from us. It's honestly still not great. These paths are good in some matchups, but against discard aggro, I'm not convinced that's the case. They're running Bookie, so this is a non-traditional version of discard aggro, which is again interesting. We're gonna just pass here to bank our spell mana, and then likely to develop a Yeti this turn and a Ruin Runner the next turn. So Draven comes down, but we'll have the potential blocker in our beefy Yeti. So they are activating Vision here because they still want to send this. And we're gonna go blocks all the way around, and we're gonna say, let's give this the +2 and this the -2. I don't know. We guarantee that this survives basically if we give this the -2, but we potentially save both if we go this route. But they could have something like Mystic Shots here or Get Excited. So I think we just want to guarantee we get rid of the Draven here. Like a Get Excited is still not enough to make this work. And we just really want to connect there. Now we have the Ruin Runner and Exhaust as options, but we also could just swing with an Exhaust on this and then go into like a double Ruinous, but I feel like just getting bodies on the board is still the way we want to go. The Ruinous, I think we can play after we block this next round. So we're gonna do this. There's an argument to be made that maybe you use it on the Dredger, but again, you're worried about them still having buffs. But yeah, we're probably gonna end up having to play these this next round just because our hand's a little bit clunky. This is like the one time it happens. It's been really good for me in the past, so that's interesting. They decided to put 2 damage on the Ruin Runner here. This with the Vision is already at a 1, so maybe they're looking to buff this again next round. But we do have a Troll Chant to keep it alive. They're starting to run out of cards, but that's not a big deal because that's what that deck does. You cannot judge discard aggro by the number of cards it has in their hand. Now what we're looking for is to get away this turn with keeping Spell Shield intact and saving enough mana so that we can play Exhaust and Battle Fury next round. Like that's our ideal results here. So they level the Jinx. So we're for sure going to be taking some damage this round. They're going to pull this away. They don't want me to threaten the Jinx. This would take us down to 1, but we nuke that, so that's fine. So we'll go ahead and take this path. All right, so they're gonna go with the Get Excited here because they also want the Rocket. which would potentially pop our spell shield, but again, not much we can really do about that. So it's gonna survive. Nothing we can do about it, so we let that go. Our second play is just going to be another Ruinous Path then to even things up. Bank the 2 spell mana so that we can go with the Exhaust, Battle Fury. And this is actually where the Ruinous Paths might be to our benefit because we're, you know, not at 4 health here. So we do this because it's got the 1 health. We do this because that takes it outside of get excited range. And then this should be a victory. So we survived the early onslaught. We got to utilize our Ruinous Paths to keep us afloat. And we get a victory. So that's game 1. I hope you can see why I like the list. Let's go play another game. It's just it's a lot of fun. Well, this is a deck that I didn't realize was still seeing play. We are queued up against Fiora Shen. Looks like folks still taking it for a whirl. No Hawk, but otherwise an okay start. This is actually a bit of a tricky matchup for us, I think. This is more aggressive, but I would like to smooth out our draws if possible. I think I want the Sand Spinner. We want to be able, in all likelihood, to dictate a few trades in the future. So that's a Fiora. If they have the Sharp Sight here, they could get at least 1 kill in, but I imagine they're going to wait for the riposte.
Pride was my end, as it will be yours.
You're covered.
All right, so they're going to give her barrier. Kind of slows us down a bit. I think we let this go. They still have a lot of mana. Sejuani will make things a little bit easier for us in the future. This round I'd like to get, I think, Yeti and Renekton developed.
It must be done.
They're just trying to put damage on this, so we just let it happen. We could have assigned a blocker there, but then they get the chance to like play spells and stuff, and I didn't want that, so we're gonna do this and hope they don't have the rally effect. And then we're gonna do this. Wait and see whatever their insane tricky response is, because the reality is they always have one, right? So we want to do this. This is a bit tough because we would also like to kill this. So I think you do this. A single riposte isn't enough to kill our Sejuani. They'd have to have like that plus maybe a Sharp Sight or something. 6 mana is a lot for them to work with, but we're gonna try this.
We walk between realms.
So they just have barriers to keep them both alive, which is a bit of a bummer. But at least we get them down to 7. It's kind of manageable. If we can find a Battle Fury or something to close it out. The only thing we have working for us is she doesn't have any kills yet, but I say yet. We might be able to just go wide on him. Ruin Runner is a pretty solid pickup for us. We're gonna start with this because I would like to see what we have coming up. I'd like to draw her. If this is still alive, I like her champion spell, and if she dies, then that gives us some options here as well.
It must be done. The balance has been maintained.
So here we just want to get the damage on the Shen, because with the, I mean, they could use a sharp sight and clean us up, but
Chase what you want without mercy.
the board the way that it is, again, our goal here is to connect with an attack and try to have the overwhelm get the job done. We have the spell shield, but again, they have lots of mana available. But we're just kind of hoping that if they have any sort of like concerted strike plays or whatever, this tells me we might see another Stand United to swap, but we're still threatening.
Understood.
We're doing the best we can.
Enough stalling.
So I'm expecting like a concerted strike here then. This is the way they are placing things. So there's the riposte. And then concerted strike, but they're down to 1. And so this leaves them at 1. But if we do this here, because of the overwhelm, we get a victory. And there you have it. So like I said, I think this list is just a lot of fun to pilot because you get to be proactive, but you play big units, you push, you know, fun damage. So I enjoy it. Anyways, if you made it this far, I appreciate you. Thanks for watching. And until next time, may you walk on warm sands.